The future of Red Bull racing is exciting, but also uncertain. With Ford coming on board next season to help Red Bull powertrains produce their first ever engine, the team are now a proper factory outfit for the first time in their history. That, in theory, should be an advantage for Red Bull. With their own engine, they now have complete control over every part of their car. However, building an F1 engine is no easy task. Just ask Alpine how bad it can be to not have a competitive engine. Red Bull themselves suffered with a Renault engine which was well below par during the turbo hybrid era. With their own engine, will Red Bull be the latest in a long list of engine suppliers to fail at the hardest task in Formula 1? Well, Red Bull's own partner Ford have issued a stark warning about the future of the team and their engine project. Today, I'll check out why Ford are so worried, why Verstappen is essential to their plans, and what happens next for the team. So don't go anywhere. As you all know by now, next season will be Red Bull's first with their own F1 engine. With Ford as a partner, the two will be aiming to compete with established engine Goliaths such as Ferrari and Mercedes. That is no easy feat. Toto Wolff went as far as comparing it to climbing Everest in a recent interview, and it's hard to argue with him. Red Bull will be aided by the changing regulations. They aren't trying to build a brand new engine in the current engine regulations to compete with the other manufacturers, because that would probably be impossible. Instead, they're building their new engine to compete in the new regulations that begin next season. Their current manufacturer Honda will be changing teams to exclusively supply engines to Aston Martin from 2026 onwards. One of the most important parts of this new challenge for Red Bull is Max Verstappen. The four-time world champion is the only thing keeping Red Bull near the top of the sport at the moment. Having scored 96% of the team's points this season, he is the only thing stopping them falling into the midfield mire. Without him, Red Bull are just another fallen Goliath like Williams. Red Bull knows this, as does Ford. Ford didn't agree to partner with Red Bull to make engines for a team which is competing at the bottom of the Constructors' Championship. They want to be battling for glory at the front end of the grid, ensuring their name is put everywhere F1 is spoken about. Ford has been looking at what's been happening at Red Bull this season, worrying about what it means for their future. They've seen Red Bull struggle, they've seen Verstappen's anger, and they've seen Toto Wolff circling. With that in mind, Ford CEO Jim Farley and Max Verstappen had a meeting in Monza with the aim of making sure Red Bull retain the 27-year-old for next season and beyond. Let's be very clear. If the CEO of the fourth biggest car manufacturer in the world is stepping in to make sure Verstappen is committed to the team's future, you know they must be worried. Jim Farley doesn't just fly to Italy for the weekend to sit down over a glass of wine and pizza with someone like Verstappen. Speaking about Max remaining at Red Bull, he said, "I think this is one of the most important pillars of foundation for the PU's success," Farley told Sky Sports News. Talking to Max, we at Ford really have grown our respect for Max watching him this year. The way he has provided stability without drama in an environment where we're all just trying to do our jobs. I can really see that in his eyes today versus last year. It's one of the great things about Laurent and his team. They all have this deep commitment to each other. In July, Verstappen confirmed that he will be staying with Red Bull next season after Mercedes boss Toto Wolff admitted he had held talks with the Dutchman's camp over a shock switch to the Silver Arrows. Laurent Mekies replaced Christian Horner as Red Bull CEO and team principal during that period, and the Frenchman says Verstappen is doing everything he can to have a fast car in 2026. Following his surprisingly dominant pole and win in Monza, Verstappen stated Mekies' engineering background has worked really well, as he has asked the right questions and pointed the team in the right direction. It is a contrast to former boss Christian Horner, who had a bigger personality off the track and not the experience of an engineer. Verstappen went as far as saying that it was nice to see his team principal asking common-sense questions, instead of trying a scattergun approach of extreme changes which just made problems worse. That is, of course, paraphrased, but it was interesting to hear Verstappen knock his ex-boss so publicly. It isn't just Max who has been impressed with the change to Mekies either. Despite being convinced by Horner to partner up for 2026, Jim Farley admitted that the change to Mekies as team principal is a good one. Farley said, "I came here because I'm a big believer to understand things with your eyes and ears, and I can clearly see the impact Laurent's had. He's a technical person, which is exactly right for this change in 2026. He's absolutely the right leader. We are completely behind him, and I can really feel it with the team. While everyone is saying lovely things about each other at Red Bull, there is a good reason. They know they need to keep Verstappen. While Hadjar might look like a talent for the future, he is still an unknown quantity really. 16 races in one season, some of which have been very impressive, isn't enough to put a pin in him and say he's the future of the team. Without Verstappen, Red Bull do not have a driver capable of competing with the McLaren pair or George Russell or Charles Leclerc. While the quality of the car is a huge determiner of performance in Formula 1, you need a driver who can maximise the package you provide, and without Max, Red Bull don't have that. While they have been worried about him leaving for Mercedes in the near future, there could be another path that sways Verstappen. Before I talk about Verstappen and Red Bull's future though, if you're enjoying the video and want to catch more news and analysis in the lead up to the 2026 F1 season, make sure to press the like button and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot. The career length of F1 drivers is getting longer every year. Next season, Lewis Hamilton will turn 41, Nico Hülkenberg will be 39, and Fernando Alonso will reach 45 years old. At just 27, Verstappen could in theory drive for another 20 years in Formula 1, but he's been very honest about what he wants to do. The four-time world champion has always said that he doesn't want to do Formula 1 until he has to retire from motor racing, and at the weekend, he took his first step toward his post-F1 career. At the weekend, he spent his time earning a DMSB Permit A, the license drivers need to compete in the Nürburgring Nordschleife in top-level cars, including the GT3 class. The reigning Formula 1 world champion reported to the track on Friday to sit through a theory exam, which enabled him to take part in the 7th round of the Nürburgring Langstraßen Series, or NLS, on Saturday. In that race, he lined up alongside Verstappen.com racing driver Chris Lullum in a Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 CS. Verstappen's goal was to complete at least 14 laps over the course of the 4-hour race, split between two cars, the number 89 and the number 980 entries. In car 980, Verstappen fulfilled the requirement of 14 laps, but after sustaining damage in qualifying, he was unable to drive in car number 89. As a result, he did not fully meet the conditions to be awarded the DMSB Permit A. However, the DPN committee reviewed the case and ultimately decided to grant Verstappen the license anyway. Max was scheduled to race in round 8 of the series, which was on the Sunday, but decided against it with his license already secured. With his A license, he'll now be eligible to race a GT3 car, most likely Emile Frey Racing's Ferrari 296 GT3, and with round 9 of the series running on the weekend between the Baku and Singapore Grand Prix, Verstappen could be back on track at the Nürburgring before the end of the month. Verstappen has had an instant impact on the series. At the time of writing this video, Saturday's race, which Verstappen featured in, had roughly 2 million streams on YouTube. Sunday's round, which he was absent from, had under 500,000. And round 6, which happened in mid-August, had less than 100,000 streams. Verstappen is now cleared to compete in the top class of the Nürburgring 24 hours, something he's very keen on. There is only one circuit like the Nordschleife, Verstappen said. It's a challenging track. Today we saw that on such a long lap, it can be dry in one section while wet in another. The asphalt also varies depending on the place. That makes it difficult to connect everything together, and that's what makes it so special. To race here for 24 hours in a GT3 car would be amazing. The 2025 24-hour Around the Green Hell happened back in June. The 2026 edition will happen on the 15th to the 17th of May, a weekend which conveniently is free of an F1 race. So, if you want to go and enjoy one of the greatest events in international motor racing next season, then there is a good chance you'll see Verstappen on track as well. Could this be the beginning of the end for Verstappen in F1? Could he become the second ever driver to achieve motor racing's Triple Crown? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.